The air was thick with the kind of tension that makes your stomach knot. I stood frozen, watching Karen, our HOA's self-appointed enforcer, storm toward my son's therapy session like a hurricane in a sundress. No screaming allowed, she bellowed, her voice slicing through the park's calm like a chainsaw. It was supposed to be a good day. My 6-year-old son, Ethan, has autism, and these outdoor sensory play sessions at Willow Creek Park were his lifeline. Twice a week, a small group of kids on the spectrum met with therapists to work on emotional regulation through games, music, and movement. Ethan loved it. His eyes would light up when he got to squish kinetic sand or bang on a drum. The park, tucked in our suburban neighborhood, was perfect wide open spaces, a soft breeze, and just enough distance from the cul-de-sacs to feel like an escape. I'd been bringing Ethan here for months, and the other parents, Maria, whose daughter Lila was nonverbal, and Tom, whose son Max loved spinning in circles, felt like family. We were a team, cheering on every small victory, from Ethan saying blue to Lila pointing at a cloud. Karen, though, had other plans. She'd been the HOA president for 3 years, ruling our neighborhood like a dictator with a clipboard, 50-something, with a perm that screamed 1980s and a penchant for passive-aggressive notes. She was the kind of person who'd fine you for a slightly overgrown lawn or a basketball hoop left out overnight. I'd had my run-ins with her, like the time she left a neon yellow flyer on my doorstep, because Ethan's sensory swing was an eyesore. But this was next level. The trouble started that morning. The therapy group had set up near the park's picnic area, a spot we'd cleared with the city months ago. Ethan was having a rough day. His meltdowns were louder than usual, a high-pitched wail that could carry across the field. It wasn't new. The therapists were trained for this, and we parents knew it was part of the process. Kids with autism sometimes scream, flap, or rock to cope, and the sessions were designed to help them channel that energy. But Karen, who lived in the fancy house across from the park, apparently decided today was the day to take a stand. She marched over, her flip-flops slapping the grass, clutching a laminated sign that read, "Quiet zone, no noise allowed." I swear, she must have printed it herself. "This is a public park," she snapped, planting herself in front of Sarah, our lead therapist. Sarah, a saint in yoga pants, stayed calm. "Ma'am, why, we have a permit for this session. These kids need this space to work on their skills." Karen wasn't having it. "I don't care about your permit. My grandkids can't play with all this racket. It's disruptive." I felt my blood boil. Maria, standing next to me, muttered, "Here we go." Tom, usually the quiet one, stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "Lady, they're kids. They're not hurting anyone." But Karen doubled down, her face turning red. "This is a community space, not your personal playground. I'm calling the cops if you don't shut them up." That's when Ethan, overwhelmed by the shouting, let out a piercing scream and dropped to the ground, rocking back and forth. My heart sank. I knelt beside him, whispering, "It's okay, buddy," but Karen's voice drowned me out. "See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. No screaming allowed." The situation spiraled fast. Sarah tried to explain autism, sensory needs, the whole deal, but Karen cut her off, waving her sign like a battle flag. Other parents started recording on their phones, sensing this was about to go viral. I wanted to scream myself, but I stayed with Ethan, rubbing his back, trying to block out Karen's tirade. That's when the twist came. Mrs. Delaney, the 80-year-old widow who lived next to Karen, shuffled over from her usual bench. She was a neighborhood legend, always quiet, always watching, with a sharp tongue when provoked. Nobody expected her to get involved. "Karen, you hypocrite," Mrs. Delaney said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Heads turned. Karen froze, her sign drooping. "You've been yelling louder than these kids for the last 10 minutes. And don't think I forgot about your quiet 4th of July party last year. Fireworks until 2, keeping my dog up all night. The crowd gasped, and a few people snickered. Karen's face went from red to purple. "This is different," she sputtered. "These kids are a nuisance, Mrs." Delaney didn't blink. "The only nuisance here is you, picking on children who can't fight back. Shame on you." The park went silent, except for Ethan's soft whimpers. Karen, for once, seemed at a loss for words. But she wasn't done. In a move that still makes my jaw drop, she grabbed her stupid sign and slammed it onto a picnic table, splintering the wood and sending therapy toys flying. A stress ball hit Lila, who burst into tears. Maria rushed to her, glaring at Karen. "Are you serious right now?" she yelled. The crowd was growing. Neighbors, joggers, even a guy delivering pizza stopped to film. Karen, realizing she was the center of attention, tried to pivot. "I'm just enforcing the rules," she shouted, but her voice cracked. The damage was done. The climax hit like a freight train. Sarah, still calm but now visibly angry, pulled out her phone and called the park ranger. Karen, sensing she was losing, doubled down, stomping over to the therapy circle and ripping up a sensory mat the kids used for grounding exercises. "If you won't listen, I'll make you," she screamed. That was the moment it all fell apart. Ethan, startled by the noise, bolted toward the parking lot. A dangerous move for a kid who doesn't always register cars. I sprinted after him, heart pounding, barely catching him before he reached the asphalt. Behind me, I heard Tom shouting, "You're out of line," Lady and Maria yelling, "This is going on X." The crowd was buzzing, phones out, capturing every second of Karen's meltdown. The ranger arrived in minutes, a no-nonsense woman named Officer Ramirez. She took one look at the broken sign, the scattered toys, and the crying kids, and turned to Karen. "Ma'am, you're causing a disturbance. You need to leave." Karen tried to argue, but Ramirez wasn't having it. "You destroyed property and disrupted a permitted event. I suggest you go home before this escalates." The crowd cheered actual cheers, like we were in a movie. Karen, humiliated, grabbed her purse and stormed off, muttering about suing everyone. But the real kicker, someone in the crowd had already posted the video online. And by the time I got Ethan calmed down, it was blowing up on X. HOA Karen loses it at kids' therapy session was trending. The aftermath was bittersweet. The therapy session was ruined. Lila was too upset to continue, and Ethan was shaken for hours. We parents banded together, cleaning up the mess and swapping stories about Karen's reign of terror. Mrs. Delaney, now our hero, brought over lemonade from her thermos and said, "I've been waiting 20 years to call her out." The viral video brought attention to the therapy program, and donations poured in to replace the damaged equipment. But the real justice came a week later. The HOA held an emergency meeting, and Karen was voted out as president, replaced by Tom, who promised to prioritize community over control. Her laminated signs disappeared, and last I heard, she was selling her house, unable to face the neighbors who'd seen her at her worst. Looking back, I'm still angry. Karen didn't just disrupt a therapy session. She targeted kids who were already fighting harder battles than she'd ever understand. But I'm also proud of Ethan for calming down enough to say sorry to Sarah, of our little community for standing up to a bully, and of Mrs. Delaney for reminding us that even the quietest voices can pack a punch. Life's too short for Karens to ruin it. What do you think? Ever dealt with a Karen like this? Share your stories below. I'd love to hear how you handled it.